Stop the cap.
Steven Spielberg did Schindler's List. Martin Scorsese did Goodfellas, right? Steven Spielberg could direct Goodfellas. Martin Scorsese probably could have done a good job with Schindler's List. But there are cultural differences. I know, you know, we all know what it is when a hot comb hits your hair on a Sunday morning, what it smells like. That's a cultural difference, not just a color difference. So it's the culture.
Have I ever told you all about how I have a seething hatred of this Denzel Washington quote and clip? Because white people took it and ran with it, misappropriated it, miscontextualized it all over the goddamn internet. And it drives me nuts. I've even had white people in having discussions about, race and politics, try to, throw this up. I mean, completely out of context. It's not about culture. It's not about color. It's about culture. Because see, what white people do is they see behavior and culture as synonymous and interchangeable. And so they come with that typical Fox News aspect, right? To basically dismiss racism or the idea that they're racist by saying, I don't have a problem with you because you're black. I have a problem with black people because of their culture, aka their behavior, which is not what Denzel Washington was talking about. What he was talking about was he was asked a question. Now, I don't know who the question came from. The people are getting on the woman for asking him the question and the interviewer, but she brought the question to his attention so that he could address it. So I don't know why people are running around trying to attack her, saying that she was race baiting or playing the race game. No. She asked the question so that he could address it. Because every time black people do a movie, there's all this rhetoric around, oh, it's a black film. Oh, why is it gotta have a black director? Oh, why is it gotta have a black cast? Oh, it's a black film. Like, it can never just be an American film. No, it's a black film. In any event, Denzel Washington responded and said that it's because of, and again, I played the clip at the beginning, it's because of culture, not color. And what he meant was, example, I'm an African American, right? He brought up, Martin Scorsese, and he brought up, who was the guy that did Schindler's List? Steven Spielberg, right? Steven Spielberg is Jewish. Martin Scorsese is Italian, right? Martin Scorsese did Goodfellas, and Steven Spielberg did Schindler's List, right? Makes sense because when you're of that group, right, you can understand the little things about the culture that other people don't understand, the things that you do, why do you light the Hanukkah, things like that. An Italian man is not going to understand that, not to the same degree as a Jewish man. And just like me as an African American, right? Imagine me going off and making a movie about Jamaicans, and I don't even know what curry goat is. So why would I make a movie about Jamaicans and then Jamaicans accept that movie, right? They'd be able to quickly identify things like, he got that wrong. Yeah, he got 8 out of 10 right, but he got that wrong because I'm not of the Jamaican culture. I'm not an islander. So the same thing applies to Steven Spielberg. Same thing applies to Martin Scorsese. Same thing applies to why there was a black director for the movie Fences, because the movie was about a black family during the era of Jim Crow and a black man's relationship with his son. That's what the movie, and his relationship with his wife. That's what the movie was about. But yet somehow that got twisted up on the internet because it sounds like the conservative talking points that white people like to run around with, which is, Oh, see, the problem with the black community is it's black behavior. That's what the problem is. It's not about race. It's about behavior. If they would just change their behavior, then racism would be over. So we're not really racist. It's just their behavior, even though we're going to ignore redlining, blockbusting, Jim Crow, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO, freaking CIA, Iran Contras, racial housing covenants, 1994 crime bill, right? We're gonna ignore all of that. We're going to just take all that and ignore it. Driving highways through black communities, that has no implication on why the black community has the problems that it has today. Right? That has no impact on why you see the problems that you see today. Right? And now, we have the whole, and I got to talk about that later, but the class warfare, and now even, young millennials and zillennials are being affected by this, don't want to pay anybody, capitalism in the extreme situation. So that's a whole nother conversation. But again, whenever white people are affected, by by things that are institutional, it's always, white people always got, a magical excuse for that. But whenever it's something that the same institution is affecting black people, then it's black people are lazy, it's their culture, it's behavior, it's everything else. But that's why I love when white people get to crying and fussing and shit like that. I'm like, oh, personal responsibility. Oh, they get so frustrated and flabbergasted when I do that shit. But I'm going to keep doing that shit. I'm going to keep digging in their ass, until they see the shit for what the fuck it is. But white people are so fucking fragile. It's insane. Like, the fragility is insane. And I got a bunch of videos addressing all this damn fragility that I've been seeing, over the last couple of months. I mean, fragile as fuck. And they're becoming more fragile because, again, the economy is not in their fucking favor. Same thing I said about, white male identity. You take away a white man's ability to provide, for a family from the patriarchal standpoint. I don't care how much white Jesus you put on it. At the end of the day, he can't be the patriarch like the Bible says if he's not gainfully employed and doesn't have more resources than his woman and able to provide more for her than she can provide for herself. There's no reason for her or the children to particularly listen to him. You see? And so, white men don't know what to do when that situation, unravels. And that's why you see, the rise in self-deletion, the rise in narcotic use, the rise in mass shootings. That's why you see all this shit. And it's going to get worse because white men don't know how to handle setback like that. Right? They have no negative stereotypes. That say, oh, well, you're supposed to be here. Like, no, they're like, no, I'm supposed to be up there. Like, what do you mean? I'm supposed to be, living the dream. What do you mean? And they can't handle, when they're they're not up there. They're not where they wanted to be. But this quote, and let me say this, like, as it pertains to Denzel Washington, and this is, it's not just against Denzel Washington, but I have a strong issue with Denzel Washington, or a strong criticism against Denzel Washington, with this, this post that has been taken out of context. Some people say, oh, it's not his fault. Nah, nigga, it's your fault. Because, I haven't seen anything where Denzel has actually addressed what's being said here and clarifying, even though I think he said it pretty clear. But when people take what you say out of context and then they run with it, you got to check that shit. And Denzel didn't do that. And now this has been running around as being, oh, it's not color, it's culture. It's not color, it's culture. You got all these white conservatives running around saying this bullshit. Completely miscontextualizing what the fuck the man was saying. Freaking dealing with your kitchen, the nappy hair in the back of your neck, since black people are self-hating due to white supremacy and got such an issue with having, kinky hair that they want to straighten it, and they got to use a hot comb to straighten it, especially for the women and the girls. yeah, that's cultural. That's what he's talking about. And it makes sense that if you're going to have talk about a black family during the Jim Crow era, that you would have a black director that understands the nuances and the dynamics of that family situation. But no, that's not what the white people did. They took it, they ran with, it's not color, that's culture. And like I said, culture to them is synonymous with behavior. You see, we're not racist. We don't have any issue with your culture. We have an issue with the way that black people behave. And see, Denzel Washington said, it's not color, it's culture. So if you change your culture, if you change your behavior, then clearly us white people wouldn't be racist towards black people. You get it? See, a black person said it, so we're not racist, which is what white people love to do on the fucking internet, which is run around and grab, Thomas Sowell and any conservative that they can grab and say, oh, see, a black person said it, so therefore, I'm not racist for saying it, even though this was completely taken out of context. And Denzel has never addressed it. He's never addressed it. And the problem that I have with Denzel and many other black people like this, and this goes back to, I'm not saying that Denzel's not articulate, but Denzel has made me cringe a couple times over the years on the red carpet and whatnot. He's made me cringe. And it's like, they love to, the white folks, they love to, again, I was getting ahead of myself. Goes back to what Malcolm X said about, why do we have these actors and actresses and athletes and ball players and entertainers always running their mouth, trying to speak on black people's, behalf. Now, again, it's not really Denzel's fault for the white folks taking the shit out of context. But I am charging Denzel with the fact that they took it out of concept or took it out of context, ran with it, and then Denzel never addressed it ever since. And so you got all these white people running around, it's not color, that's culture. Like, that pisses me off. If you are a prominent individual, you're in the spotlight, okay, you got to be careful about what you say. And you can't just let people run off and run with what you say. I mean, hell, the freaking who was the white guy that sang the fucking song? Oh, come on, what is it? What is the guy's name? Country song goes viral. What's the guy's name? It's going to tell me in a second. Country song goes viral. What's this guy's name? Viral country song, Oliver Anthony. Okay, so Oliver Anthony, he was talking about, north of Richmond and basically how the white elites don't want to pay anybody and whatnot. And it was like the anthem, for white conservatives for a while. And it turns out this dude he's not, a hard right winger. He's actually way more liberal than, people want to acknowledge. And that upset a lot of the white conservatives. But I give Oliver Anthony credit because he was like, no, don't be taking what I'm saying and then running with it and then trying to like do some bullshit agenda with it. He came out and spoke against a lot of shit that, conservatives figured like, no, but you're a white guy and you're from the South and you got a beard and your country and you live in the sticks. And so therefore you must be about everything that the Republican Conservative Party and the Tea Party and the far right is all about. Which means you gotta be all about Jesus, which he is, but then you gotta hate gays and hate blacks and hate Mexicans and hate Jews and hate everybody else, unless we're talking about Israel, then because we like the warmongering and the war machine and the freaking military industrial complex, then we co-sign Israel. But any other time, as white evangelical Christians, we don't care about Jews. But we're going to pretend that we do because we don't like Muslim brown terrorists more. So we like the Jews relative to Muslim brown terrorists. Okay, but we don't really care for the Jewish people. We don't care for the people with the little hats. Okay, but yes, we're going to co-sign them for now, for now. And then next week we'll talk about how they run the banks and how they control the media and how, they want to get rid of the Gentiles and how, we're going to talk about that next week. But right now, yes, we are pro-Israel. Just white people, just what they do. But I'm saying if Anthony Oliver can address it and he can call it out and he can say it, then I'm like, Denzel, where you at? Where you at, my guy? You know what I mean? They've been doing this shit for 7 fucking years. These white people have been running around with it's not color, it's culture. When you were talking about knowing how a fucking hot comb smells on a Sunday afternoon, which the average white person is going to know nothing about. The average Jewish person is not going to know anything about that. The average Italian is not going to know anything about that. The Indian, the Arab, the Chinese, they don't know anything about that. Again, we already see how white people did Asian people in America in their films, with the big ass teeth and shit like that. What's the guy's name? Ricky, whatever the guy's name is, the white guy that they had playing Asians, and you end up playing a stereotypical Asian because 9 times out of 10, when somebody else is representing you in their film and their media, they will misrepresent you. That is what they will do. I have my issues even with black films sometimes, or films that have, that do this whole thing where like the money for the film doesn't come from black people. So at the end of the day, black people, even though there's a lot of black faces up there, like black people don't really control like the messaging that's getting put out there. And you see this with the recent interview with fucking Cat Williams, and Shannon Sharp, and him talking about all this gay shit. That the white folks be trying to slip into, black movies and shit. A black man getting raped, a black man on some gay shit. Like, why a nigga in a dress? With the nigga in a dress thing, that has been talked about. Damn near all the high profile black men that you could think about in Hollywood, they always trying to stick a nigga in a dress. So Cat Williams up there, he calling this shit out for what it is. Shit that we've been known. Goofy shit, Holly weird. All the fucking homosexual shit that goes on in Hollywood. Right? So what was I saying? Talking about freaking Denzel and just you gotta call it out. You gotta shut it down when people try to take what you say and then not only, and this is like the most egregious it's not even a misquoting, it's a miscontextualization of what was actually being said. And I'll put the link in the description box. There's tons of videos on it. If you type in, it's not color, it's culture, 1 million videos of the whole interview is going to freaking come up. I'm just using this clip. But you gotta address that. To let not only have people, take the quote out of context and then run with it and then use it against your people when that's not even what you meant. I'm like, Denzel, that's some laziness, my guy. That's some serious laziness. And I know Denzel got all these like conservative streaks going on, but I think even he would be like, that's like the way that white folks is like co-sign. He's like, that is not what the hell I was talking about. Because if you read the comments, like there's all these white people in the comment section, and they're like, "Oh, and Denzel, he's an amazing actor." They start throwing in shit that has nothing to do with the quote. Like all of a sudden, he's an amazing actor based on, he said some shit that they totally miscontextualize and then, agree with the miscontextualization. And so they just running around like, Denzel Washington for president. More human beings should be like Denzel Washington. What a great person. Oh, he's such a genius. Like, you should see all these comments. And I'm like, first off, y'all motherfuckers didn't go to see Fences. You know what I'm saying? That's the movie theaters weren't like filled with white people to go see fucking Fences. I mean, that's the whole problem with black movies always being labeled as black movies. There's more white people who saw Denzel Washington say this quote than actually went to the movie theater and saw Fences. And I told y'all and I warned y'all about these white folks that go out here and they all they do is co-sign black people anytime you espouse what they believe that supports their agenda, and it's typically like the Fox News narratives type of agenda. Okay, I mean, and if you dive through the comments, you'll see comments in there that talking about the media and narratives and it's like and race baiting, and I'm like, the question wasn't about race baiting. The question was addressing a question that most likely came from somebody white talking about, well, how come you gotta have this person, direct the movie, the film, right? Like if there was a film about a woman that was going through, that was, I don't know, molested by her father, and she got pregnant and she was trying to decide on whether to have an abortion, would it make sense to have a man, it's not culture, it's gender, or excuse me, it's not gender, it's culture. Like, would it make any sense to have a man direct a film like that when it comes to everything that a woman's going to go through, in the, in the hospital, just going through the whole process of deciding whether she wants to have this abortion or not, which she has to, and then let's complicate the movie. Let's make her from, I don't know, some place in the Midwest, and it's a very religious, small religious town, and and nobody wants the fact that her father molested her to get out, and so but then she's pregnant, and then it's like it gets to a point where she almost can't hide it anymore. Oh, you could have a wild ass emotional movie, and then you could throw in the politics in there, and Wade, Roe v. Wade, and what the Supreme Court decision was, right? But to have a male directing the movie, especially one that wasn't, I mean, it's not that you couldn't have a man direct a movie like that, but you would want one that was culturally sensitive, or most certainly listen to the input. Like maybe it was written a certain way, and then they say, that actually wouldn't happen. A woman is more likely to do this. And then he actually goes, okay, all right, we'll do it that way. Right? I'm just saying it would make more sense to still have a female director in regards to that. But I'm like, I get so, every time I see that quote, because it all comes through IG and timelines and YouTube shorts and everything. Every so often, I see this fucking clip of Denzel Washington talking about, it's not color, that's culture. And the white people, they just in there having just erections all over the place. Just erections all over the place. It's like when fucking Morgan Freeman was up there, again, another example. And I'm saying, again, his was worse than Denzel's, because Denzel, again, his shit is literally being misunderstood. But Morgan Freeman, he was like, let's just stop talking about race. That's how you make race go away. Yeah, because that makes fucking sense. Right? I mean, let's just stop talking about Gaza. That just makes all the children stop dying. We just stop talking about it. I mean, hell, starvation of children. Let's just stop talking about it. That'll make it go away. The opioid crisis. Let's just stop talking about it. That'll make it go away. Freaking $2,000 rent. Let's just stop talking about it. That'll make it go away. Right? The fact that employers don't want to pay people. Let's just stop talking about it. That'll make it go away. You see how much that doesn't make sense? But yet somehow when it comes to black people and Morgan Freeman goes up there, let's just stop talking about race and it'll just go away. How fucking dumb that is. But when it comes to us, it's like, yeah, black people, just stop talking about fucking race and it'll go away. Right? Meanwhile, 9/11, never forget. Memorial Day, we must commemorate this whole, never forget all the wars we've been through, never forget. Right? You got all these fucking white, Southerners, want to reenact the Civil War. Never forget. The South will rise again. Oh my God, man. I can't stand people, man. I cannot stand this world sometimes, and just like it's like nobody's intelligent. There's like you can't have any real intellectual conversation. The way that people process information, that's a big one for me. Like the way that they process information. And I'm saying use the clip as a litmus test, right? You want to see how fucked up white people are? Take this Denzel Washington clip, and I'm telling you, their brains process the shit differently. Okay? We know what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? And there's a couple of conservatives that will, they'll think the same way because they want to be accepted by white people. So they know like the cues of what they need to, co-sign in order to be accepted. But the way that white people look at this clip and they see something completely different is mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling to me. I'm like, how did you come to that conclusion? How did you come? He's saying that again, culturally, the little things are what are going to help make a good movie because they understand it from the standpoint of being a participating member of the culture. They know what's going to work and what's not going to work immediately. But yet somehow, no. What he's really talking about is he's talking about, it's not about color. It's not about race. It's about culture, aka behavior. You see? See how all these words are interchangeable here? I'll say it another way. It's not about race. It's about behavior. See how racist that is? See how that just completely just overlooks so much and just ahistorical as fuck. Like I told you, white people want American history to start in 1985. That is American history to them. 1985, everybody's on an even playing field. Racism is over, and there's no such thing as racism. We don't practice tribalism and group economics as white people, right? We don't engage, in helping to discriminate against black people in any way, shape, or form. Not in the workplace, not in communities. It's black people just organically seem to want to live around each other. That's just what it is, right? When it's really about the fact that black people can't afford to go anywhere else and the banks are going to deny them, loans. And then you have the whole aspect of being denied economic opportunities, which will make it so that you don't qualify, for the loans. And then on top of that, you have the situation where, again, we don't have, access to the capital, access to, when you don't have access to resources, you don't have access to nicer things. And I do think that black people would want to live around just black people if there were more black people, that were making more money. And then a lot of the social problems that come from poverty and lacking and everything, none of those things would be there. Rich white people don't want to live around poor white people. Rich white people don't want to live near the redneck white people in the trailer parks and the hillbillies and shit like that. They don't want to live around them. Why don't they want to live around them? They don't want to live around them because why? Because it's what do you want to call it? It's freaking problems. I got a friend out there in East Kentucky, white guy. And he tells me all the time that they got, high hepatitis C, the fentanyl is crazy. They deal with a lot of alcoholism. They deal with a lot of, Arkansas. Have you Googled Arkansas? Arkansas has the highest, I think it's the state with the highest rate of not only incest, but I think it's, what do you call it? The violation of minors, right? And who lives in Arkansas, right? But they deal with the same shit. It's just from a country bumpkin standpoint. But when people don't have money, when the mines are closed, and that's the only industry that's there that actually pays a damn. Because you can't be in freaking West Virginia, East Kentucky, and in some of these rural valleys and whatnot, and you were making money working in the mine. There is no other industry for you to make the type of money that you would make in the mine. That's why the white people moved there in the first fucking place. For economic opportunities. And when those economic opportunities dried up, they were upside down on their houses. And I mean, they would literally have to give their house, away. And I think one of the poorest counties in America is like, what is that, McDowell, West Virginia or something like that. It's all fucked up. All fucked up. Everybody's on disability. Yeah, that's the white America that all these white conservatives don't want to tell you about. No, it's just black people. They're the ones. They're up here breathing up all the white man's air. Oh God, I can't stand these people who think this way. I think intellectual racism bothers me more than like the foaming at the mouth, like Ku Klux Klan racism. Like that race, like you can just dismiss that shit. You're like, you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? When they just say like overly stupid things. And maybe I rest in the comfort of knowing that I am intellectually smarter than they are. So I'm like, yeah, what the fuck ever, man. You're a fucking idiot. And I just move on. But when you get into these like these truth omitting, ahistorical type of white supremacist miscontextualizing shit, that sleight of hand white supremacist. Ooh, I can't stand them motherfuckers. Because if you're not careful, you know what I mean? It's like fucking slippery slope. You just, whoa, 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 whoa. The next thing you know, you're slipping into some dumb shit. And you're like, how the fuck do we get over here? You know what I mean? Like it's real slick. How they try to pass, shit by you that in any other circumstance shouldn't pass the smell test. It's real slick what they do. But that shit has to be called out. And Denzel Washington, I'm calling you out. You need to address this shit because this shit been floating around the internet. That is not what I meant. That's what you need to say. But I doubt it. I doubt he gonna open his mouth, again, irresponsibly, saying something, letting people, freaking, miscontextualize it, and then we got to deal with the fallout from the shit. Meanwhile, Anthony Oliver is up there, and the conservatives, they tried to run, with his song and act like the song was all about liberals and evil liberals and all just all that crap. And he opened his mouth and he was like, nah. And then the conservatives, they were scrambling the jets. They didn't know what to do. They're like, oh shit, he's not as far right as we thought he was. Oh shit, oh. They didn't know whether they would attack him. They didn't know whether to abandon him. They didn't know whether to sit there and be like, oh well, you didn't really mean what you meant. We'll just say that you were drinking that day. You know what I mean? Like they were trying to find all type of ways to try to get the narrative back, of Anthony Oliver's song. But I just need to get this video off my chest because I just saw this clip keeps coming back up. And when you go into the comment sections, it's just white people just, doing that Thomas Sowell bullshit. You know what I mean? Like they don't like black. I told you, white people, like black people are too emotional. White people, when it comes to their like white supremacy or their racial bias, they will co-sign the fuck out of anybody that espouses their view. They'll sit there, they hate Asians, but Charlie Cheon is our man. They hate black people, Thomas Sowell is our man. Candace Owens is our woman. Brandon Tatum, that's our guy, right? They will co-sign the fuck out of minorities that espouse, their views. They know that they're out there doing bullshit and fuckery and everything. It don't matter. They're going to co-sign. They're going to make that person famous. They're going to throw all type of money at them. They're going to hit their cash app. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, now spit more of that red hot fire. You know what I mean? Man, they be hitting them up, throwing all type of money their way. Not black people. Not black people. Black people, it's either some old out of the goodness of your heart type of shit, or, black people, what else do we do? Black people will only co-sign people who they feel, deeply and truly love them. Like, it's like, I need you to bendeth thy knee. Bendeth thy knee. And then, I'll give you my support. White people are like, I don't care. They will literally make your whole identity about one clip that you said that they actually like what you said. They do the same thing with Charleston White. When Charleston White is criticizing black people, white people be like, that's our guy. That's our guy. You know what I'm saying? And then if Charleston White, says something about white people or which he tends not to go anti-conservative. He's just a massive grifter to me. But I'm saying, they'll either be silent about it, they'll ignore it, they'll downplay it, but they will make the thing that they agree with, they will blast that shit from the mountaintop. They can disagree with 99% of an individual, and they're like, oh, I agree with this one point here, yes, and we are going to amplify that times 1,000,000. And they will make that quote or that statement, they will make that the person that they're elevating their entire identity. Can't even talk right now. Yeah, they will make that their entire identity. And the next thing you know, that person will be known for that one clip. That one clip. The only time I've seen black people do this is, I'd say, with Ann Coulter. Now, a lot of black people don't fuck with Ann Coulter, but when Ann Coulter was like, we owe black people reparations, black people were like, oh, Ann Coulter, you tell them, girl. You tell them, right? Like, that's the only time black people co-sign Ann Coulter. So that would be an example of black people doing the same thing. But white people, they're way more effective at elevating the messages that they want out there, especially coming from minority folks, because they want somebody else to say. They want to absolve themselves of white guilt, and they want to be able to be like, see, look, he said it. Why can't you be more like him? Or why can't you be more like her? Right? They gobble that shit up, man. I'm telling you. But black people got to be more, again, I don't care if somebody puts a mic in your face on the fucking street. Okay? That shit is dangerous because people can snip, cut, edit, or just totally miscontextualize what you said. You got to be careful. You need to learn how to say things in a way that people can't misconstrue. And even if they cut it, the cutting part isn't even so bad because you can totally shut somebody down and be like, here's the whole clip. Here's the full clip. And then you look like, that person looks like an asshole. But some of y'all be saying, like, y'all don't fix your language properly, and y'all go on the mic and say some out of pocket shit. You know what I mean? And then now you up there looking goofy. And people are running around the internet crying, trying to beg to get, their videos taken down, or, some post taken down that they said or did when they were 16 years old or some shit like that. Y'all millennials be real sloppy with the internet. Y'all are real sloppy with the internet and the way that y'all move. Granted, when I came on the scene, there was no monetization. None of that shit. So some of y'all are like, fuck it. I'm making a career out of this bitch. And I'm just going to go out here and do the most outlandish, wild shit ever in order to fucking make, in order to make some money and make a living. And then it turns into some, sell your soul to the devil type of shit. It's fucked up, man. We live in some fucked up times. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.